Don't say it. Don't say it.
Hey Craig, what bow you running this season?
Oh geez. You mean what bow am I using? I'm Craig with BlackOvis, and this is my archery hunting setup for 2024. First, starting off, we're going to be using the RX-7 Hoyt's carbon bow frame. Really like the carbon frames because two reasons. One, saving ounces, and when you're up in the mountains climbing, every ounce counts. And then two, when it gets really cold out, you can still hold on to this bow without your hands freezing. Just that carbon frame does not get too cold like metal frames or aluminum frame bows. Next, we got the Axcel Landslyde Accustat 2 scope. Really like the scope. I've been messing around with a few scopes now for the last few months, just trying to find something I really liked. And a big thing for me is having micro adjustments. And this sight has everything. So the micro adjustable pins here, micro adjustable windage on here. So far, this is my favorite bow sight that I've ever used. So for the rest, I'm using the QAD Ultrarest, drop away rest. So far, I really liked it, have no complaints. It's cable driven rest. I might go back with a limb driven rest here. We'll see how this one does this year. And then for arrows, I'm using the Easton Axis long range 4mm arrows. They're super nice for, we're gonna be hunting up in the mountains. When you need that wind resistance, they cut through the wind a little better. It's their micro diameter shaft, and I'm really big on micro diameter shafts. I'm using the 55 grain match grade outsert here, and then a 100 grain point. So total arrow weight is going to be 400 grains. It's actually the lightest arrow setup I've ever used. But so far, I've really enjoyed it, and it's especially nice for tack. And then for my vane setup, I'm using a 3-fletch left helical with the air razors from AAE. I thought about doing a 4-fletch, but I'm shooting a mechanical broadhead this year. So 3-fletch is plenty enough to control that broadhead and get it on point. That's for the arrow setup. To hold the arrows, I'm using a Tightspot quiver. I actually did a custom job on this one. It's really easy to do. Just went to Home Depot, found their Krylon spray paint, used a primer, and then used some brown spray paint on top of this. This just got rid of a bunch of the black that was standing out. Try not to have too much black on the bow if possible, something a little more natural looking. So I thought that turned out pretty good. And then the other custom piece on here, this is a Easton Halcyon stabilizer. The Halcyon stabilizer was actually for their target archers. It does really well in the wind. It's just a micro diameter stabilizer. So I actually just cut this down and then threaded in a piece here so that I could screw on some weights on the back piece. But I thought that's really cool, and then the Tightspot quiver turned out cool as well. And then that's my 2024 hunting setup.
Hey, Adam here with BlackOvis, and just want to go through my bow system. So I'm in between bows right now. Literally, I just got my new bow for 2024 and beyond. It's the new Alpha X from Hoyt. Pretty excited about that. I've been with Hoyt now shooting their bows for a while. So I thought it was kind of important to talk about why I liked my Hoyt RX-1 carbon. I've had this for a long time. I've done a lot of bow walking with this thing. I've taken a few animals with it, and I love this RX-1. I don't want to ever get rid of it. It'll be with me. But I just, you know, we get all a little crazy, like thinking, oh, what's that next bow gonna be? Been hearing a lot of good things about the Alpha X. As you can see here, we don't even have a D-loop on this thing, not even a peep sight. I have not shot it yet. So when I say I'm in between bows, I really am in between bows. I'm just starting to move over my accessories as of like today. So I thought about outfitting this new bow with, you know, all new stuff, all new tech, all the latest and greatest. Honestly, I'm keeping my black gold sight. It's the Verdict, and it is a 5-pin Personally, I would prefer a 4-pin. They're kind of hard to find, and I haven't gotten to the point where like I'm removing pins or customizing it that way. But normally I would like a 4-pin. But I love that slider, just the length of it, everything. I'm a huge fan of black gold. So that's what I've got going there. And then I've also got the 7-arrow Tightspot quiver. The camo does not match the bow. It didn't match it on this old RX1 either. I'm just kind of that type of hunter. I'm not concerned with like how things look particularly. Also, just like a personal note, I've got a sticker on my Tightspot, and it's hard to see, but it's a quote from my dad. It's a sticker that my sister made at his funeral, and it's a quote that he shared all the time, is "There's no free lunch." So that's what I see on the inside of my bow, and something kind of cool there. So, but I'm still transferring my accessories over. Beestinger, front and back there. Really like this system. I remember the day that I switched into this stabilizer and just saw a major difference. I am going to try out this new kind of snub nose stabilizer that Hoyt has now. Again, I'm not like a tinkerer. I'm just more of a, what about that option? So that's kind of the style I am when I'm kind of looking at my system. Okay, and then the QAD Ultrarest. Again, this was something when I put this on, I absolutely loved it. It was a huge shift. I'm a newer hunter. I say newer, I've only been bow hunting for about 8 or 9 years. So some of this stuff feels still kind of new to me. But when I find something I really like, I like to stick with it. So I'm gonna take everything off this bow and put it on this new one. Wanted to talk about arrows for a second. I'm gonna slide this down here. This has been the ultimate arrow for me over the years. Now, I did shoot a Pierce Platinum for a bit, a Kinetic Pierce and a Pierce Platinum. Great fun arrow to shoot. These micro diameter arrows are awesome. But I remember I was at a shop and we shot the Kinetic Kaos and the Pierce, and they just showed me how consistent the Kinetic Kaos has been. And so last 2 seasons I've been shooting this arrow and I absolutely loved it. The other difference I've done is I have switched from a 3-fletch, a really aggressive helical, into a 4-fletch. And that is partly because working at BlackOvis, people love to tinker, as you can see from all the gear guides here. But I got into a 4-fletch, a little bit longer AA max, having a really good time with this. Like the consistency even jumped up even more going to this 4-fletch. So I've enjoyed that, and it's quieter. That was a big thing. Went out on a photo shoot we were doing. I took a shot at a deer, and I was probably 200 yards away from Craig, and he heard my arrow. Like, he was like, "You have the loudest arrow ever." So partly because of the vane I was using at the time and the 3-fletch, I believe. So anyway, things are quieter now. I've still got these Pierce Platinums. I'll probably be using them for tack because they can be as loud as they want, and people know I am coming, so they can be aware. As far as the release goes that I have been using for a long time, this is an old Scott leather piece. I believe it's called the Shark or Shark 2. And it's about time to replace it. Things are looking a little wary here. But yeah, I've really liked this buckle system with the leather. It's comfortable and it stays super, super steady. And excited to, take this Alpha out for its the first go. So it's gonna be a good time. And it's a little weird putting a dirty quiver on a fresh new bow, but we're going with it and gonna have fun.
Hey guys, I'm Colby with BlackOvis, and today I wanted to run you through my Hoyt RX-7. This is the bow that I decided to build this year. It's been awesome for me so far. It's a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I've always used a longer axle to axle bow, something in that 33 to 34 inch range. That's typically where I like to stay. Kind of, just common held knowledge, longer axle bow is technically more forgiving, but This Hoyt RX-7, even though it is a 30-inch axle to axle, has been incredibly forgiving for me. It's been a super stable platform, and I think it really stands up to all the longer axle to axle bows that I've shot in the past. So really loved it so far. Pretty much got to pick and choose all the parts that I have on here. Mixed and matched a bunch of things, so we'll go ahead and run you through it. So I used a lot of the Hoyt factory accessories from their inline series. So I've got the Superlite 6-arrow quiver, and then on the back side here I have their SL sidebar mount, which is really pretty incredible, the way that it mounts to the riser, the adjustability, the stability, and just how tiny and light that thing is. It's been super impressive. I've never used a sidebar mount that gets that small and still holds very, very precisely. The other Hoyt factory accessory I have is these Go-Stix 2.0. These are a game changer over their original version, which was an already really cool piece for a bow. As you can see, I mean, it holds the bow really stable. If I had a short stabilizer, I could also run it in tripod mode, which would basically kick the back of the bow up like this instead of having it lay flat. They're fully adjustable, which is really cool too. You just undo the screw, pull it forward, and you can move these legs wherever you want them to go. There's a bunch of different positions that you can keep them in. You can keep them locked back tight to the riser like that so they don't get in the way. So this will be the first bow stand that I'm really going to use while I'm out in the field hunting. They'll be folded up when they're on my pack or when I'm on a stock, but the convenience of having them is awesome. Since we're on stabilizers, I've been using cutter stabilizers for the past year now. I have an 8-inch in the back and I have their 10-inch in the front. I did a lot of playing around with weight. I did a lot of, canting the bar out, vertical, horizontal adjustments, and I've finally gotten them dialed in to be exactly where I want them. I use my sidebar pretty far out to the side, so it's able to basically, I'm able to rotate against that on the second axis to have another point to hold against when I'm at full draw. Makes this thing extremely stable. Moving up the bow here, on the back side, I've been a big fan of Hamskea rests for years and years. I think limb driven for me is the way to go. I've always loved them, and the ease of adjustability in the field if you need to. You can just use something as simple as 550 cord, wrap it around the spindle on your rest, run it down to your limb, and call it good. Your tension is very, very easy to set up in the field if you need to, if you have any sort of an accident where, you clip your rest cord with a broadhead, anything like that. The Epsilon has been super bomb proof for me. Timing is always spot on, never had any mechanical issues in cold, heat, anything like that. I know that environmental factors can often affect a rest, and this one does not have any of those. Moving a little bit further up the bow, we have the Ultraview slider sight, the UV slider. It's a 4-pin sight, so you have your 3 pins up top, and then you have a single small vertical pin coming right out of the bottom of the housing. This sight's been really, really nice so far. The way that they have you sighted in off the back side with this single pin and their own house-made tapes makes it really, really simple to sight in. I'm able to get a lot of clearance out of this sight. I really like how big the bubble is at the bottom of the housing. I also really like how they have that 010 pin at the very bottom of the housing. It makes it super easy to see your targets when you're shooting at long distances, practicing over 100 yards, etc. The dial itself is extremely smooth. I mean, you can take it all the way up to the top of your slider, and you can adjust it all the way down to the bottom in pretty much one motion. It's super easy to disconnect the entire housing from the sight bar itself. For travel, when you're going into your hunting spot, you can take that off, put it in your backpack if you really want to. I don't do that personally, but I know it's an option that some guys like. The sight light on this has been super impressive. It's really bright, and your pins don't halo out as bad as a lot of other sights do. with a lot of light behind the pins. Those 015 pins do a really good job at dissipating that halo and making sure that your pins are clear on target, even when you're shooting inside under harsh lighting conditions. So, been a big fan of this sight. My string is from a small company that's local. They're called Drop Tine Outdoors. It's a guy that just builds strings off the cuff, custom to your own specs. Hit him up, he built me these strings. They're in the natural string fiber. They've been super, super resistant to stretching, to peep twist, everything like that. My peep stays exactly centered where I want it every time, and I've been really, really pleased with them. Next thing here, the Hamskea Raptor peep. I shoot a 3/16 peep, that's my own personal preference. Serve it in with just Halo 7000 thread. It's really small. I'm able to get a lot of wraps going up and down the actual string itself, which I like. Pretty long D-loop. That's what's been my preference for forgiveness. It seems to not have as much torque on the string. And then I just use one knock set right above the bottom tie-in of the peep. Last thing I'll go over with this build is my arrows. So I am shooting the Victory VAP 4 mils, and they are cut just in front of my rest. I like to shoot my arrows as short as I possibly can. I have the new Easton 4mm half out. They've got a rubber O-ring inside of them, so the concentricity is really, really nice on these. They are dialed from piece to piece, super consistent with both weight and the way that they fit in your shafts. There's never any issue where you have to, take your arrow, bang it in the table to get it in. They've been really nice for me, and I think I'm gonna continue to use those for years into the future. I'm also using their 100 grain field tips, which are their new match grades that just came out recently. They've also been super nice. You hit another arrow, they don't bend, super concentric. The threads are always really clean, just a great machining job by Easton on those. At the back of the arrow here, I shoot the Gold Tip GT nocks. I really like these with this particular string. The way that this is served, this gives me a really good knock fit where it's not too tight, stays on the string really well, helps keep my velocity up and my tune in check because they don't stick to the string at all. They're a little bit looser than some of the other nocks that I've tried with this particular string. And then the back of the arrow here, I also have the Q2Y Griff X 3-inch vanes. I really like pink because you're able to see them super easy. There's nothing out in the woods that's pink, save a few wildflowers here and there. I hate missing, but when I do, it's really nice to have a pink vane, and more importantly, the surface area on these with a 3-inch vane, having them 4-fletched, it may be overkill, but I think that it's really given me that extra ounce of forgiveness with my setup. Call me crazy, but I truly do believe in having a ton of surface area on the back of the arrow. It gives me a really good flight. It's just overall been a really nice arrow setup. Comes in at about 430 grains, and having that 4 mil, we were doing some shooting out at long distance, and we kind of made the determination that 4 mil truly does do a little bit better in the wind. So that's what I'm choosing to use this year. So that's the breakdown of my Hoyt RX-7. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Hey all, it's Jace here from BlackOvis. I'm the archery buyer. Wear a lot of hats around here, but mainly the archery buyer. Here in front of me, I have my Prime RVX 34, aka the Prime Rib. Those of you that know, you know. Super excited to be shooting a Prime this year. It's the first year I've had a Prime. I love it. I can't say enough good about it. Extremely wide limb platform this year. Much more stable than previous Primes that I've shot. And I've tuned 4 or 5 of these this year, and they've all been literally eyeball it up, get your center shot right, and bullet hole. So I can't say enough good about them. I've always ran bows that have like a Y-yoke cable system. I came from Hoyt. Have nothing but good things to say about a Hoyt, but I wanted to try something different this year. So this uses their aluminum spacer shim system here on the cam. So if you need to move your cam back and forth, left and right, you can easily do that by popping the spacer out, shifting the cam one way or the other. I'll be honest, like I wanted to doubt it. I didn't think it was as easy to tune as maybe, previous Y-yoke systems, or, there's a lot of different systems now to move your limb pocket or the cam within itself using like a screw. Honestly, I haven't really had to touch any of the primes at all that I've tuned this way this year. It's just been plug and play. They've all tuned out of the box. I know there's a few out there that have had to shim it, but it's super easy to do it. They make a tool that the pro shops use to pop them out and replace them. But if you don't have that tool and you just have a press at your house, it's as simple as removing this screw here, moving your axle out, swapping your shims over, replacing it. The one bow that I have had to do this on, it took a matter of 10 minutes and we had both cams shimmed over the proper direction and we were back to tuning. So I can't say enough good about how simple the system is and how easy it is for just the average guy to work on. You don't have to have a doctorate degree in bow tuning to work on these bows nowadays. I'm running an Epsilon rest on it from our friends over at Hamskea. I've got a Spott Hogg Tommy Hogg, tried and true 5-pin. I have the cool little prime bracket here, and I'm running a Tightspot on here. And then stabilizer setup, I'm running 2 10s on it currently. That may change with the hunts depending on how much I want to carry, but 2 10-inch Beestinger Microhexes. I've got about 10 ounces on the back here, and I believe I have 6 ounces on the front. I can't say enough good about the rig. I shoot quite a bit of 3D tournament stuff throughout the year, and this bow just feels like home. Makes me look good, and that's saying something. Love the bow. As far as an arrow, I'm kind of leaning towards the Black Label Quantums this year from Gold Tip. I will be doing quite a bit of testing here in the next few weeks, but Black Label Quantum 300 spine. Total arrow weight here is about 407 grains with their standard component system. And some of you are probably wondering why so light, but I'm getting a little over 300 foot a second and I've never had an issue with penetration. I like to flatten that trajectory as much as possible. Broadhead, probably something in the Grim Reaper line. Big Grim Reaper fan. Probably a Pro Series 1 3/8 for just about all my hunting here in Utah. Vane setup, another one of those things to be determined, but here in front of me are 2 of my favorites so far. This is an AAE Air Razor. That's the Pro Max profile, so that short 2-inch low profile vane in a 4-fletch configuration with a left helical. Fletched the exact same way as the Hybrid 23. So both low profile, seem to perform really well in wind, and then I generally am a mechanical shooter, but I know I could get away with some of the smaller fixed blades with these profiles. So hopefully I get to send one of these through a critter here soon. If you have any questions on anything you see here in the video, call into our customer service line. Thanks.
Hey everyone, my name's Dustin from BlackOvis, here to give my bow build to y'all. So for 2024, this upcoming season, I decided to switch over to the Prime. It's the RVX32. I shot a Matthews previous to that. It was an awesome bow. This bow here came highly recommended from a few of my friends, and so I thought that I would give it a try, see how it shoots. So far, it shoots as I would hope. It shoots straight, holds nice, fairly dead in the hand, I would say. I don't shoot every bow on the market every single year, but from my perspective, it gets the arrow where I want it to go. I'm kind of jumping up from the 28-inch axle to axle from last year into this 32. Pretty excited about it. So far I've been able to put quite a few 100 arrows through it, and it's been shooting as expected and as hoped. So I'm going to dig into it a little bit and share a little bit of what I've got going on here. So I decided this year to go with the HHA Tetra Rise 3-pin sight. I really like how fluid this sight is. It just moves really buttery, which I really like from a previous sight that I ran in years past. And so I decided to go with that. So far, so good. Been functioning as expected. My stabilizers, I got the Beestinger Microhex in 14-inch and 12-inch off the backside here. Seems to give me good balance overall to kind of balance out my quiver on this side and keep my bow as stable as I can keep it. Rest-wise, I got my Hamskea Epsilon. This came with the bow. It's been super sweet. It's a limb-driven rest and functions as expected. Arrow builds got going here is I got the Easton Axis match grade 4mm. I got the half out insert with the practice tip, match grade practice tip here. 4 fletch AAE razor fletchings. Seems to fly nice in a 250 spine. So I decided to go with the 80-pound limbs on this. It draws nice, it cycles nice, and the back wall feels really good. So for me, not being a professional archer, but loving to archery hunt, it tends to fit the bill. So that's my bow build for this year.
What's up guys, Ross with BlackOvis here, and I'm gonna go over my setup for the 2024 archery season. This is the Hoyt RX-7. I got the 2-piece Hoyt Quiver here, holds 6 arrows. And then also the sight, you know, this UV slider sight, it does have a light, you know, pretty bright. You could dim it up and down. You could also take this off and it comes with another piece that slides in. So if you're in a state or gonna hunt a state that, you know, you can't have any electronics on your bow, it's pretty nice. It has a quick little unlock here so you could move this up and down, or you could leave it locked and you could have like a little bit more of a final adjustment. Another cool thing about the sight is, I don't know if you can see it, but it has 3 pins indicating the 3 pins up top, and then 1 pin at the bottom indicating, you know, the bottom pin just above the bubble. So I mean, that's a cool feature on the sight. I'm really impressed with it. I'm pretty, honestly, out of the whole setup here, I'm probably more interested and excited about the sight in general. But in all, this bow is shooting pretty money for me. The rest I'm running is the Hamskea Epsilon limb-driven rest. For stabilizers, I have the cutter stabilizer, 8-inch in the front and 8-inch in the back bar. But the cool thing about the cutter quick adapter is you could rotate this up, slide this in. So if you have this on your backpack, you're not having a bar sticking out, catching on brush and all that stuff. Moving into my arrow setup, I have a 27-inch draw on this at 70 pounds. I cut my arrows pretty short because I'm looking for a little bit quicker, lighter arrow. I cut my arrows to 25.5, but with the collar, I'm about 26. I have 100 grains up front with a 60 grain insert. I'm shooting the Victory Rip Extreme Velocity 300 spine. I'm shooting a 3-vein left helical flex. The vanes I'm using are the Q2I Griff X 3-inch vanes. The knock is the Easton X knock, I believe. I'm kind of experimenting still with it, so it just depends on what else I could put on it or use. Right now I'm just thinking about what broadheads. You know, I do want to use a expandable broadhead, so I'm probably going to be looking at more of the broadheads in the Grim Reaper line. I don't know exactly which one yet. I'm still kind of on the fence on a few, but I mean, I have about a month before the season starts, so I got to decide pretty soon. The release that I'm using this year is the Carter Chocolate Light. It's a 3-finger handheld release. And then I put the UV barrel button on the back. And then this little piece here, we don't sell on our website, but it's made by Total Peep. And what's cool about that is when you're on a stock or in a position, you could clip this to your string here. And it just sits there, so it's not banging around on your bow. And then when you're ready to shoot, it's in your hand, ready to go. So that is my 2024 archery setup.
Hey guys, Kendall Card with BlackOvis, and I'm talking today about my archery setup. Archery is my go-to. I have been known to shoot a gun, but for example, I've never shot a bull elk with a gun. Only this bow here. And so just want to go down my build, why I choose the things I do, and yeah, hope you enjoy this. Most of the I'm shooting the Hoyt RX-7 Ultra, so I am dyed in the wool, a big Hoyt fan. They're built here in Salt Lake City, so I love the hometown crowd. I like the Hoyt RX-7 Ultra. I have tried the RX-8, but I also have a 5 kill quota on my bow, so unless I kill 5 big game animals, and my whitetail hunting does not count unless I shoot a buck, then I will not switch a bow. So I have yet to notch 5 kills with this bow. So for that reason, I'm sticking with the RX-7. Draw weight with an extra twist is 71 pounds. I got a new string this year. I upgraded. I don't think it's an upgrade, but I think the Hoyt is making really good strings. It used to be like you had to upgrade. Got a new string this year. Top to bottom, I run the Hoyt 4-piece carbon quiver, the 4-arrow carbon quiver. And sometimes I have had a couple quiver dumps where I've shot 5 quivers when I've used the Tightspot in the past. I do like the fact that it's connected in 2 locations. I know the Tightspot is really nice because a lot of guys like to remove that. My hunting partner does remove his Tightspot, and I've really enjoyed the Tightspot over the years, but I wanted to go a little bit lighter. 4 arrows is plenty. I will sometimes double up because this middle groove is deeper on the Hoyt. I will double up and run 5 arrows. I keep a small game arrow with me for grouse, which I like to shoot if the occasion arises. I painted the hood and also the tail piece here. Just custom painted those with spray paint, rattle can, super easy. And I just wanted to be like dark color and earth colors. For my sight, I'm running a 5-pin Landslyde. I do not like 5 pins. In fact, I was just shooting this over the weekend with a buddy, and I was telling him I really would like to cut the 5th pin out. Landslyde, at least this one, didn't come with a 4-pin. 4-pin is my desired flavor. On the 5-pin, I run green, red, and then I have an orange, and I don't really like the orange. In the 4-pin configuration, I run green, red. And I usually run the bottom pin, which is in the past been my slider. I run that as a 0.10 versus a 0.19 because I like that drifter to be a little bit smaller. But on the 5-pin configuration, usually 4-pin I'll run 20, 30, 40, 50, and then my 50 is that slider. On the 5-pin configuration, based on some feedback I got from one of my hunting partner, I actually run 27, 40, 50, 60, 70, and my 50, which is right in the middle of the housing, is my slider. So I moved from the bottom pin to be my slider because of the distance as well as because of just how much noise there is. And I wanted that slider pin right in the middle. It took me a little bit to get used to, and I shot it last year, and I quite enjoyed that. The other bonus is, like I was shooting in the backyard the other day, I can shoot up to about 90 yards in my backyard. And I can run that. I can shoot, for example, if I'm shooting 70, if I quickly need to do that and I don't want to move my sight housing, I can run bottom pin at 70, gap it to 70, 65 between the bottom and the next pin, or I can run it both. And one of the things I do every season that I check both configurations. The one thing I really love, so when I say both configuration, I'm saying I'm checking to make sure that my 50 slider pin is dialed at 70 and that my stationary pin is dialed when the slider is noting 50. The coolest thing I love about this, and I realized that this year I went from a 484 grain arrow down to a 470 grain arrow. Used to shoot up to upwards about 515, and I wanted to get less arch in my archery. And just take out some of the risk of maybe misranging. I love this pin indicator on the slider housing. I didn't need to move my pins that much, and I love the fact that also, instead of a printed out chart for running my numbers, this is a steel one that comes with it. It's one of the ones that comes standard with the Landslyde from Axcel. So I really love that. I love the versatility of that pin housing. All I really need to do to sight it back in this year, when I change from just dropping 14 grains, it's not going to be that much, but it was about 4 yards difference. And so I just simply moved the housing, got it dialed, and then actually moved the pin so it indicated back at 50. So that was pretty sweet. Love that feature, and I've been really stoked with the Landslyde. I was a black gold guy forever, and switched to the Landslyde and been super pleased with it. I run a super long dovetail, and I used to shoot so the dovetail was all the way out, but the problem that I encountered, and I know some people have talked about this, is the larger distance obviously increases accuracy, but if you're not a target archer, which I'm not, I'm a backyard flinger and an archer that gets after it, but I'm not shooting my bow all the time like some guys in the office are. I have more propensity to have torque twist and be off when you're increasing the distance between peep and and the sight housing. At least that's the way I understand it, and that's the way that I float it. So I do have it marked here. I decreased the dovetail distance that I'm utilizing, and I love it because I also quick release that. And when I'm backpacking in, I don't have my my stabilizers, Go-Stix, or the housing on. I simply have basically a bare bones bow when I'm hiking. It's on the back of my pack. Speaking of Go-Stix, one of the cool things I love the Hoyt Go-Stix. This is version 1, the 2.0. Certainly are super interesting, and I would love to get that. It's not entirely compatible with the RX-7. It is with the RX-8. So kind of interesting feature, and I really do like it. I use this is I think this is just a random carbon fiber stabilizer. I don't necessarily need it, but I do like it from a standpoint of when I set my bow down with the Go-Stix, my cam's not in the ground. And I know on the RX-8, they put the little cam lifter on there, so your cam isn't sitting on the ground, or at least the rotational part. I run a Beestinger, and a couple years ago, the Hoyt rep suggested that I actually go all the way like almost perpendicular. I thought he was crazy, but I've really dialed and found that that's exactly where I love it. And I do like it because when I'm overhead, when I'm carrying my bow on my shoulder like this, I've got that stabilizer right on the back. And it just kind of keeps it steady for me because I like to do this. This is kind of the walk of shame, or some guys call it the cool guy way of carrying your bow. But so yeah, that's what I'm running for stabilizers. On the inside of the riser, I have some Lone Wolf grippy tape that they use on their tree stands. That's imperative. I actually blew a buck because I didn't have that on there, and got way busted when my arrow just rattled on that. Inside, I like to use this little valley piece that kind of holds it in place, because the rest I'm using is the Epsilon from Hamskea. I love the Hamskea. This is a limb-driven one. Every once in a while I have had to fiddle with the limb driver, and I did have a situation where the actual rest came loose just over time of use, and I know they fixed that in a couple of their new models, but it isn't broken, so I'm not going to fix it, and it's pretty rad, and I love just the reliability of the Hamskea stuff. Speaking of Hamskea, I run a Hamskea Peep. This is, I think, the Raptor. And I do like that. I've looked at their adjustable peep housing one. It's like $80, but I'm not changing things around enough that I don't need it. So at $20 for the Raptor, I think that's ideal. I run a real stiff D-loop. This is a little bit larger than I typically run, but I do like a very, very stiff D-loop. And in the past, I've always done a bright color D-loop just so I can see it a little bit easier and capture my release on there, but ended up running with just the camo for this year. As far as other features, is broadhead. Actually, I'm running the Stan Hook Instinction 2 release. The cool thing I love about this is the hook actually hooks to the outside rather than the inside. That was weird at first because I used to run a different one, and I am a trigger guy, but I run that really, really short, and I like to run it so that basically my finger is right on the edge here, and I'm not out on the edge of my finger, but I can rest my finger almost entirely on top of the trigger, and then I'm using more of a back pull, but I'm sure I probably get trigger happy at times, and I'm not completely dialed on that. So arrows, Easton guy, like I said, this would be the second tattoo I'd get. I shot the long range. This is the 4mm. And then I used to stack the hit insert here, which would add the extra like 22 grains on top of this. And in the past I've run nocturnal, but I'm just gonna run a straight, this setup right here, which is, like I said before, it's 15 grains, 14.5, 15 grains lighter than I've ever shot before. I've never shot an arrow this light at 470 grains. I've got two configurations that I'm playing around with. I've always been a nitro vane fan. I love the underside of the vane. There's little kind of holes or squares that provide more surface area. Adhesion has always been super optimal for me. And I've always run 3 vane, but our guy here, Jace, told me I should look at the 4 vane configuration. I thought only cool kids did that and not old guys like me, but I'm giving that a shot. The 4 vein, this is the Nitro 2.2. I really, really like the low profile, and it's super quiet. That's the other thing I really like about that. Just in shooting and being downrange and measuring like decibels and also just audible sound, I felt like that was as quiet as it could come. But I am trying the Griff X. This this is a more of a shield, not shield, but parabolic, larger vein. There's a three configuration or 3 fletch with a lot of helical. So I'm giving that one a whirl, but I will probably settle on this pink and white with the white BlackOvis wrap on the Easton 4mm, which I'm super psyched about. This is the long range as well. As far as broadheads go, Grim Reaper is my broadhead of choice. I typically go with the Minimag 4-blade expandable for deer, and I might switch over to the Minimag 3-blade fixed for elk this year. But in the past, I've gone not from the Minimag, but to the original, or usually the Pro Series 3-blade. I think it's a 2 3/8 cut on the Grim Reaper. So this is my setup. This is what I'm going to the field with. Don't try and convince me otherwise. I'm sticking with Hoyt and Easton, but there's a lot of good product out there. But this is what I've settled on. I absolutely love it. Oh, the last thing I would say, I do like the rubber grip on the Hoyt. In the past, though, I've always gone with side plates when that was an option on other bows, just because I like to be like really in touch with the bow, and I don't like a bigger handle or where my hand goes. But I am playing around with actually trying to remove this rubber and maybe just using tennis wrap or racket wrap, or even just going straight to the carbon. So yeah, hopefully it's been informational, and psyched to get out there and put a big buck down so I can consider even upgrading for next year to RX-8 or whatever Hoyt's going to come out with.